Hey YouTube, this video today is about a 2004 Ford Mustang V6 with a 3.9 liter engine, and I'm going to show you how you can change the water pump on this vehicle. This is the water pump right here, and that's the 4 bolts, 13 millimeters. And before you do anything, before you remove the belt or drain the fluid or any of that, the first thing you want to do is loosen these 4 bolts. To remove the belt, you need an 18 millimeter socket or wrench, and right below your AC compressor is the tensioner pulley, and you will be turning this counterclockwise. Once you've released the tension, you can go ahead and slide the belt off. So with your belt off, you can now go ahead and remove the pulley for the water pump. So after you've removed the water pump pulley, we're going to remove this coolant hose and also this 8 millimeter bolt right here. Once you've slid back the clamp, you can now go ahead and remove the coolant hose. So with that 8 millimeter socket, you want to go ahead and remove the coolant pipe. This coolant pipe is usually stuck in because of an O-ring that goes inside the water pump. Just spray some penetrating fluid and take your time with this because you don't want to break it, and they tend to break sometimes. If it's stuck in there pretty well, what you can do is just grab a screwdriver and a little hammer and just lightly start tapping it. And take your time, but eventually it'll come out. Okay, and there's an O-ring right about here, and that's what usually holds it too tight. Alright, so now is the time to remove the power steering pulley, and there's no real way around this. We got to remove the pulley here, and you'll need a special tool for this. And I just went out and I've just got this cheap tool. It's a power steering pump or alternator pulley remover, and it's fairly simple to use. It just consists of this nut and bolt and a sleeve. So how you use this is you take these two pieces and you just slide the top piece over the pulley. There's a ridge here, if you can see that. And then you want to thread the bolt like that all the way to the end. And this part slides into this sleeve. Then you put the bottom piece together. And then you take the sleeve and you just slide it right over just to hold it together. With that securely in place, what we're going to do is we're going to hold this nut while turning this bolt. Alright, so with the power steering pulley out of the way, you now have access to these two bolts that hold this bracket in place. There's also two bolts under here. These ones I already removed, they're 13 millimeters. Now I'm going to remove these two, which are 15 millimeters. Now you can remove the bracket. So with the bracket out of the way, you now have full access to all the bolts on the water pump, and you just want to make sure you organize these bolts accordingly because they are different. There are looks like 10s and 15s or maybe 13s, so just make sure you have some sort of a plan as to organizing the bolts and where they go. As you can see already, all the bolts are different, so just make sure that you organize these. Now with the water pump out of the way, you want to go ahead and grab yourself a razor and scrape off all the old gasket material. Just make it a nice, smooth, clean surface. Alright, so once you got the surface nice and clean, you can now get ready to install the new water pump. Alright, so what I decided to do here is just put a very, very light, thin coat of silicone just around the outer edge of the water pump, because I noticed there was a little bit of pitting on the block side of the water pump, and I didn't want any issues with leaking, so I just, with my finger, I put very light coat of silicone. So it's, you could do this if you like, you don't have to do this, but what it also does is it will help you to hold the gasket in place. So when you go to install the gasket, you got something to stick it onto. So I'll show you that. As you can see, we can comfortably install the gasket, and it will allow it to stick properly without moving. Now you can go ahead and install the water pump. Alright, so once you got your bolts in place and snug, I'm going to show you the torque numbers for these bolts, and also there's a proper sequence in which you should tighten them. Alright, so according to this diagram, these bolts should be torqued down to 21 foot-pounds, and also the sequence, as you can see here, you want to start at the bottom here and then the top. These are both, I believe, the 10 millimeter bolts, and then the other 10 over here, and then you want to work your way across to the left, and then back across here, and then almost in a crisscross pattern after that. Okay, so you can pause the video here to look at the sequence and the torque number. You don't have to completely tighten these bolts down. Once you got the belt on there, you can snug them in even tighter. There's no real torque specs on these, but being 13 mils, I would think they would be approximately 20 foot-pounds maybe. That's just a guess, but around 20 it should be fine. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and put the coolant hose in place, get the clamp back on there. Then you're gonna put the belt on, and just in case, what you want to do is just draw an outline of the belt rope. And I did one here on a piece of paper. Problem is I got a little bit of grease and oil on it, but that's okay, should make it out. So basically, that's the routing. So that's the main pulley, it's the water pump, power steering, alternator, that's an idler, and the AC and the tensioner. So if you draw something out like that, or I can just pull it up on my computer, but this was a lot quicker for me. So just put the belt back on, start with the coolant. So with the belt on, just want to go ahead and tighten down the water pump bolts. You can use another wrench like this just to hold it in place, but the belt will help you a lot. So just going to go one by one, snug them down. You can also use a pry bar so that you don't loosen up the other bolt while you're tightening the other one. And once you get that down, you're good to go with the coolant. Alright, so once you got everything put back into place, your coolant, your lower coolant hose there, your two pulleys, your belt, you want to start adding coolant through the radiator cap here, and you want to be using Ford Motorcraft Gold, and it's a 50-50 mixture. Once you have the radiator full, you want to go ahead and remove this vent plug here for the engine. This is came off the same coolant pipe that you removed from the water pump. Completely remove that, and you can start adding coolant through there. That coolant will go directly into the engine, and once you have that full, you can put that plug back in, make sure it's nice and tight. And what you want to do is put the heat setting on the dash at the coldest point and run the car, turn the car on and get it to normal operating temperature, and while checking the level of the coolant in the rad here. And once it gets to operating temperature, you want to shut it off, let it cool down. After it's cooled down for about 15 minutes or so, you want to just top off the level again in the reservoir. Don't forget to make sure that your expansion tank is in between the two lines, and you can see that on the back of the reservoir through there. And once you have all those checked off, you're good to go. So I hope you found this video helpful and informative, and if it was, please share, like, and subscribe for more great videos like this. Thank you and have a great day.